When Fintan asked me to come and present, I was obviously nervous of presenting, but I was excited to be talking about Google Workspace. I'm a big fan of the product, so I'll hopefully inspire you guys that haven't been using it to take a deeper look at it. So just to introduce myself, I'm the head of IT at Flipdish. I've been at Flipdish for nearly 3 years now, and my role here is to provide IT support and end user support to all of our employees. I support all of the end user technology and manage all of the SaaS estate, which obviously includes Google Workspace. If you want to reach out to me, there's my details there. I've gone through this journey on my own, and if I can offer any advice or support, I'm happy to do so. I'll just give you a bit of a history over who Flipdish are to give you a sense of our company and the size and how we use Google. We're an Irish-based tech company. We were founded in 2015 by two Irish brothers. We reached unicorn status about 2 years ago, which is an amazing achievement. We're only one of 5 Irish companies to have reached that. So we're very proud of that badge. We have about 230 employees globally. They're split between UK, Ireland. We have people in South America. We have people in Pakistan. So our global workforce is very distributed. We started off being office-based, and then COVID hit, and then we decided to go fully remote. And I'll talk about a bit more about that journey in a minute. But what we do at Flipdish is that we provide technology for restaurants and takeaways. That can be anything that technically hits a restaurant, so equipment on site like kitchen display units and kiosks and point-of-sale systems, and then any technology that comes in online like mobile apps and websites. And currently we have around 5,000 customers based in, I think, 12 countries. So I just wanted to highlight this, and I think the guys have mentioned it before, that we're a hub-first, remote-friendly company. The reason I wanted to bring this up is that we started off being office-based and we went remote first because of COVID, but then we realized we were more productive being hub-based. So now when we hire employees, we make sure that they can commute into one of our hubs within a 40-minute time frame. And that's just helped to drive engagement. But as a result of having mixture between office-based and home-based, we had to find a solution for collaboration and productivity, and that's why Google Workspace has come in and done such a great job for us. Now, why has Flipdish chosen Google Workspace? So Flipdish was born out of the cloud. Cloud first, everything we have no internal infrastructure, we have no on-prem data centers. It's all built in the cloud, and we felt like Google Workspace was the right tool for us with our cloud first approach. It's interesting, before I joined Google, I'd spent 20 years in my career supporting Microsoft technologies, originally on-prem and then cloud-based. So I'm used to working in an environment where there's a SharePoint administrator, Exchange Online administrator, and like an Office 365 admin. There's always quite a few engineers involved. And I remember on my first day at Flipdish, we had a lady who's non-technical who was managing the Google estate, and she just gave me access to the platform and said, off you go. And it was a bit daunting at first because I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really know how to manage the platform. But I found it so intuitive that I could literally just browse around the single portal and find out where everything was. And obviously, Google being Google, they have a great search function within the admin console, which allows you to search and look for anything you might be trying to find. But yeah, so what I found is with my experience with Microsoft over the years, all of that skill and verbiage and technology and words that I was so used to using at Microsoft was transferable at Google, and I just found the transition really seamless and smooth. So what do we use at Google Workspace? So we obviously use Google, Gmail, we have shared mailboxes, and we also have a number of partner mailboxes, which we give to third parties, and they can use a Flipdish email address. We use Google Calendar. Shared calendars is a big thing for us, but one thing we've started to use recently is scheduling. Now, we have other third-party apps like Calendly that we used to use and pay for, but actually we can use scheduling as a service which comes in with our subscription, which has been really helpful for us. Google Docs and Google Drive has been excellent. We have a huge amount of shared drives. We share documents externally, and I think the guys have touched on the security of this earlier, so I won't go into too much detail, but we're safe in the knowledge that the permissions we've set are going to keep our data and information secure. And then we use Google Meet. Now, that's probably the biggest biggest product for us, purely because of we have a distributed workforce, and then we have Google Meet hardware, so people can come into the office, they can use the Google Meet hardware we've got, and then have their meetings with remote employees. So that's also provided excellent way of collaborating. And again, touched on earlier, the downtime is practically zero, so we never have any issues connecting. We're always dialing straight into meetings. There's no downloading apps. There's no updates, and we're always good to go. So I just want to give you a sense of how we use Google at Flipdish. So if you can see, we've got 232 active users, and the adoption rate is very high. The reason why the mail isn't at 100% is because we do have partner mailboxes, and they don't log in every week. But I think the stats are really good and really interesting there. One thing I want to point out is the 88% usage of Google Sheets in the last 28 days. Now, we've found Google Sheets to be really powerful for us. And one thing that we always get asked all the time when we have new hires is, can I have Excel? I'm used to using Excel. Google Sheets doesn't do what we need, but actually it does everything that Excel does. And it comes up every time we have a new hire that needs access, and they're just so used to using Excel that they ask for it. And then what we found is that we record most of our meetings now, because that allows us to do lots of training and have lots of the repetitive work and stories and meetings that we have to be recorded, so we can relay them to people at a later date. But I think that's, for our size of our company, I think that's a huge amount of meetings over the last 28 days. And then just to finish here, we have weekly all hands. So we have anything up to 200 people on the all hands calls, and they're once a week on a Friday. And again, we record those, and they're stored in the shared drive, and people that missed all hands on the Friday can catch up on a Monday or whenever. So everybody's kept up to date, and there's no forgotten kind of transfers of knowledge. So I want to talk about how we use Google Admin. Again, this was mentioned earlier. We have a single portal with everything there that we need. And again, the search functionality is really strong. So if you know what you're looking for, but you can't find it, you can search for it, and that helps. There's been quite a few conversations around security today, so I won't dive into that too much. But obviously the security that the guys have mentioned earlier is very strong, and the infrastructure it sits on is very strong. One thing we do really like is the reporting, particularly when we have leavers leaving the company who may be going to a competitor. We don't suspect there's been any foul play, and there's been no reported foul play to this date. But what we can do is we can go in and see if people have been using and sharing documents externally, which gives us a sense of our data and how we control our data. One thing that's really interesting and important to us is Google Vault. So when we do have people leave the business, we're able to back up their data into a vault and then access it at a later date. And this has come up a lot. We need, people need access to contracts or email conversations with customers, so we can dive into the vault there and get access to what we need. DLP was touched on earlier, but I think it's important to mention again. We have over 5,000 customers, and sometimes when we're emailing customers, we may put credit card details in there or other sensitive information. We're only human at the end of the day, and the DLP rules will pick that up and make sure we're not sharing anything that we shouldn't be, which has happened on a number of occasions, and it's been really useful to have this turned on. And then the last piece is around Google Admin, User Admin, and just the way we set it up. We started off with Google Single Sign-On, which has been excellent. We've actually moved to Okta now for just part of a wider strategy. But the onboarding and offboarding process is always really quick and smooth. And actually, once I set everything up in Google Admin, I didn't look at the platform for weeks and weeks because I didn't need to. Everything was configured and it runs very smoothly. So I was finding I was only going into the platform to look at adding new users or removing users or adding people to groups or distribution lists. The actual ongoing admin of the platform, once it's kind of reached its maturity level, is nearly zero, which is great because the IT team at Flipdish is very small. We have very limited resources. So to have a platform that we can almost configure and forget is really important to us. So how has Damson Cloud helped Flipdish? So we have over 200 SaaS applications in our environment, which is a lot to manage. We have to manage the relationships and the renewals. What we found is that with most platforms, we buy them, we configure them, and then we use them. But we do have a set of core platforms that we use at Flipdish, and we find that Google Workspace is one of those core platforms. So it's really important to us that we have a really strong relationship with the vendors, and that's where Damson Clouds comes in. We've met at various events over the years. We've had lunch dates. We've had really good conversations and built great relationships with Fintan and Ruben and some of the other guys. But one thing that's really sort of shines for me with Damson Cloud is that because they're a Google Workspace only kind of company, they're not trying to sell us and upsell us Google products, which is, I just don't really like the hard sell. So for them to be really focused on one product at Google, is great for us. We're not going to get the hard sell, but they're going to be really knowledgeable of just that one product that we use and that we need help with. So that's what really attracted me to Damson. When I first joined Flipdish, we were with another vendor they were fine, but we felt like a number to them. We were just, they were just getting their check at the end of each quarter, and there was no real interaction and support from them. But when we first spoke to Fintan and the guys, we really felt like there was a relationship forming there, and they could support us and understand what we needed, and ultimately help Flipdish scale as we go through this growth period. So just a few points to talk about with Damson. They've been a trusted advisor for us. I briefly mentioned that the relationship is excellent. They've done a great job on maintaining that. We have quarterly business reviews to talk about how the platform is and also how we're doing as a company. So whether we're growing, we're moving into new regions, and whether Damson Cloud can help support us as we grow. There's training for us, which has been helpful, but I'll be honest, whenever we hire new employees and we onboard them, 95% of them have used Google at some capacity at some point in their lives. Google, Gmail for their personal email address, or Slides for their own personal stuff. So when it comes to training, we haven't needed a huge amount from Damson Cloud because people know how to use the platform. And actually, when we onboard day one, there's no kind of upskilling, there's no training. People just get access to their email, they log in and they work. And we found that really powerful because, as you know, when you're joining a new company, there's so much to learn. But things like email and Google Docs, you can just get on with, and it's straightforward. They take us through product roadmaps, which we saw some of today, which is always really interesting. Especially around the AI piece. We can start thinking about how AI will help Flipdish going forward, and how it can fit into our usage at Google. They do a lot of work around security, as that was touched on earlier, and that just gives us peace of mind. Again, we set everything up, and then we kind of fire and forget. So we don't really have to pay attention to that because we get all the reports, we get all the emails and notifications. And then there's the support. Yes, there is Google support, but that's usually a chat. But support with the Damson Cloud guys is great. You can email in, you get someone that responds really quickly. They can pick up the phone, or they can talk over email, whatever you prefer. And that's always been great. Their engineers are really knowledgeable, and we've just found it really interesting. That's it, really. I know we're going to have a Q&A session in a bit, so I hope I can provide some answers, and I hope you found that somewhat insightful and interesting. And thank you.